What happens when you sacrifice all human things at the altars of the gods? Human dreams, human whims, human instincts, human desires for certain mortal flesh, right? The questions of parity, the questions of perhaps companionship. Yet in this speculative framework, if we assume the axiom that gods are impassionate and objective intellectual forces with different interfaces of walking throughout the world, different senses, non-human senses, what remains? Well, I imagine godhood, deification, as the complete purge of the human animal, of its whims, desires, dreams, visions. They're not realized, they are unrealized. You shed the monkey, you shed the human worm behind. And if you're not prepared for that, then well, then you can't be a demigod or a god. And still in this mortal flesh, as I am this biological cocoon that limits me in such a great instance, I am begging to be interpreted into something more divine, more godly, posthumously. When I drop this Cycadian flesh, Dionysian tomb behind. Now, what is a god or a goddess? Everything that a mortal human being is not. It is the negation of the mortal human being. It's not a myth, as in tales, fairy tales for children from the ancient times. It's the essence of godhood, the philosophical godhood, the inquiry into godhood, the contemplation of godhood, the greatness, the action of godhood. And if, even in modern times, in those neo-pagan circles, they imagine gods and goddesses to be sky daddies and sky mummies, to be subject to the whims of those incomplete, incompetent, compensating morons, fools, and bitches, they are wrong. And everything divine within divinity of plurality I experienced was just a figment of what my mortal human nature, mortal human mind, heart, and soul could understand. It's a figment, a little die. And both a tragedy and the great skill of the mortal human being is to create infinite things within his mind. We may proclaim ourselves this or that, in this infinity with power, but nevertheless we are mortal flocks, cattle. And only by dispossessing ourselves of the mortal, becoming mortal, immortal, eroized in aletheia equal to mnemosine, can we become gods? And as gods, we do not perceive like mortals. We are scorched of the mortal human animal. As if that figment of a mortal animal would be interpreted into the deity. En angeli bonum e agatus daimones, or a demonic creature. So, this mortal perspective that I do have as a mask of a deity in mortal flesh, I didn't enjoy much commiseration with the rest of this sorry affair of mortality. And perhaps acquiring the perspective of a mortal as a dragon spirit was unworthy, observing the mishaps, indecencies, the piggishness of it all. But I must say that deriving from the corridor of fire as that fierce dragon spirit, and being forced to be born as a mortal human being, I've learned a lot. Enough to dislike this mortal race, enough to be compassionate towards it, enough to recognize the virtue, nobility, and greatness scars within it. And do you wonder why gods and goddesses do not respond to you? You pitch towards them by making yourself at least proportionally similar. But how can you imagine to pitch to gods and goddesses if you cannot sacrifice any of your mortal affairs, ensnarements, whims, caprices? And it's not a mortification, it's a heroic affirmation, but not the way you like, the way that destroys you, the way that builds you up, the way that perfects and rounds you. And then you may say that you are far removed from divinities, but you get a little bit of it. You understand hypothetically strong. And of what use you are to gods and goddesses? Stars and galaxies, no earth nor nature are brought for the sake of mortal human monkeys. From the perspective of gods, mortals are like ants. Mortals slaughtering swine in industrial scale slaughterhouses are not better than those pigs. Will you worship an ant god? The hive goddess of the bee hive? I guess not. So why do you have a pretense to render divinity alike to you in projection? That would be a swine of a god, a disgusting god. If Judeo-Christian projections would prove to be right, if their God would be a reflection of Judeo-Christians, that would be a disgusting God, an ugly God, a hypocritical, biggish, jealous God. Now my divinity is dispossessed of all those projections, Judeo-Christian paglets and their belief systems. My divinity is inapproachable, like Kronos, the serpent of time. And throughout the chains of beings across the universe, a pluribus unum, polytheistic, polydaimonic, the pluralities. You near those forces and those spirits and those gods that are closest to human race. Don't imagine yourself to greet and meet the absolute, the Cronian god of everything, Entopan, the monadic proteus, Atum, the Heliopolitan mythology, theology. But then, the worm, the swine, imagine to contact the highest god. Projecting a worm upon it. So let them worship this worm that they believe that the divinity is reflecting them in their image of a swine. As a heathen, I find it derogatory. I find a more philosophical enterprise in essentializing Godhood. Thank you.